Welcome to Alpha Wolf Trading. Did you know that there's over 12,000 stocks or companies that trade on the OTC? Between the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, you have over 7,000 companies. But us as retail investors, we wouldn't know that unless we were researching. Because why? Wall Street focuses on the elite, the big companies. And where the retail investor has their advantage is in small and micro-cap stocks. Why? Because you have the opportunity to speak directly with leadership. That is what this is all about here at Alpha Wolf Trading. We're trying to find the hidden gems, and we interview the executive teams of companies that we think meet the parameters to be those hidden gems. I also want to make sure you understand that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies that I interview have been identified as potential opportunities for me and the members of Alpha Wolf Trading to receive a higher than average return on our investment. These companies I have identified either because of a technical setup on a chart, a fundamental change within the organization, new management team, new products, all kinds of different things that actually lead me here. But what do I think is the most important? Leadership. And that is why I do these interviews. I want to understand what drives the person that is leading the charge. I want to feel their passion. I want to understand their vision and the strategy that they're going to use to achieve success. That is what these interviews are for. I want to understand the share structure and the cap table, the size of the TAM, the total addressable market. This is the opportunity to learn all of those things. So sit back and enjoy. And if you learn anything from today's interview, do us a favor. Subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I recommend highly that before buying any security, you speak to a financial advisor and do your own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up with one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite CEOs. And if you were to ask me, I don't know, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, a month ago, if I thought the stock would be where it's sitting today, I would say 100% undoubtedly no effing way. But here we are. And, Desmond Wheatley from BEEM Global, ticker symbol BEEM. Desmond, you've had a couple of little things happen recently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That have, I don't know, could be transformational for the company. I think was probably one of the most fantastic walkthroughs of an acquisition. I don't think I've actually ever seen what you did to show people what you have acquired that is really, I think, transformational and has opened up the biggest market in the world for solar, what you provide. But I'm not going to steal your thunder, Desmond. Thanks for coming in. Just give us a little recap of what you've been up to. You've been a little bit busy.
Been a bit busy, yeah. I mean, thanks very much for the introduction, Tim. Listen, the walkthrough, it's about a lot of different things, and I think the first place we got to start with is what you said about the stock. In my wildest dreams, I could not imagine that our stock would end up where it is today, given what we've done. 300% year-over-year growth, and by the way, that's up from 200% last year, which was up from 150% the year before, and 100% the year before that. So it's not as though we were starting from some tiny little number. We're firing on all cylinders here in North America with an improving profitability in a time of inflation. So we're still not out of this inflationary period yet, and yet we have managed to grind out and improve our gross profitability every quarter this year, and that's a journey which is only just beginning. Let's come back to that in a minute. The acquisition that we did in Europe is, in my mind, the best thing I've ever done. It's probably the most important thing I've ever done in this company's history. As I said, 300% year-over-year growth in the United States. United States is a great market. Don't get me wrong. 290 million cars. In Europe, there are 405 million cars. In Europe, they have already announced the banning of the selling of anything but zero-emission vehicles 12 years from now, in 2035. In fact, almost 11 years from now, in 2035. You can't buy anything but zero-emission vehicles, and that means nothing but electric vehicles. In Europe, they've committed to being net zero in energy by 2050, which means that all energy has to be renewable, not coming from carbon sources. And then finally, what's going on in Ukraine has made Europeans feel very insecure about their electricity and infrastructure. Too much reliance on Russian natural gas and all sorts of other things like that. Our products solve for all of those things. We can rapidly deploy EV charging infrastructure. We are using renewable energy to charge those vehicles, and we are immune to the centralized failures of the grid because we continue to operate. We don't need to connect to the grid. We continue to operate without it. So it's without a doubt the best market we could have gone into. Why did I do that tour? Because there's clearly a disconnect between what we're doing as a company, the growth, the expansion of markets, the expansion of revenue opportunities and everything else, the improving profitability, zero debt, $100 million credit line, untapped and well capitalized right now. There's clearly a disconnect between those things and where my share price is. So I've got to do things like that, walk people through factories and walk people through facilities. I mean, kind of enjoy doing it too, frankly, very proud of it. But the truth is we got to do it because we need to try and help people understand what BEEM Global's doing. And sure, you're rotating out of growth stocks. Sure, interest rates are where they are. Sure, you can get 5.4% money markets, or you could a month ago. And it's tough to put money into growth stocks right now. But don't bundle us in with all the other growth stocks. We're very, very sound footing, and we're growing like crazy with great discipline. So that's why we did it, because we need to try and help people understand what we're actually doing as a company here, as opposed to just looking at a ticker and lumping us in with all the other stories there.
Can I just point out a couple of highlights from that walk? So you picked up 6 acres of and what is it, 250,000 square feet of under
roof, yeah,
manufacturing and office space, right?
Yeah,
you
mostly manufacturing.
Trucks, delivery trucks, cranes, right? Let's see, sandblaster, paint booth. I mean, powder coating, vendors that were massive. I mean, a lot of equipment, plus the workforce, plus the engineering team. And the last time we were on, I think it was the last time, we talked about the fact that you are not a one-trick pony, that the EV ARC is not the only product you have patents for, but you also have the street lamp, which has battery storage, wind, and solar, right?
Yep. And grid.
And what does this company make?
I mean, the company that we acquired, which is now BEEM Europe, just happens to be one of the largest streetlight manufacturers in Europe. Sold streetlights into 17 nations, including the United States of America, and has existing relationships, many times, in many cases, with contracts in place and in very good credibility. They've been in business since 1992. Their cash flow, profitable at the bottom line, no debt, they don't have credit accounts. They do everything through they've done out of cash flow. They have very, very good relationships with who? Exactly the same customer profile with whom we've had great success in the United States. They sell streetlights and other communications and energy infrastructure to cities, to states, to nations, to militaries, and to large corporations. That list is the list of customers to whom we have had great success getting this 300% year-over-year growth in the United States. We are shipping our intellectual property over now into our facilities in Europe. They are already capable of making our products, and they are going to go straight out to their existing customers and say, hey, you've been buying all this other stuff from us for the last 30 years. We now have rapidly deployed off-grid, renewably energized EV charging infrastructure that's immune to blackouts and brownouts. Are you interested? You want to take a look? Now, anybody who's ever sold anything in their life knows that first cold call, that first conversation is the toughest part to get through, to try and build some credibility. That first sale is the toughest part to get through. We're already there. We already have all those relationships. This is just something else on the menu for them. And it just happens to be something that everyone in Europe very badly needs right now, solving just about all the sort of headline problems that they have. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. I got to tell you, somebody that the other day said to me, "Oh, Desmond, you're so enthusiastic," and I might have detected just a little hint of there was something there they didn't like about my enthusiasm. And I told them is, yes, you're damn right. I love this company. I love our products. I love what we've just done. But here's what I'm going to say to you. You talked to me last year. I'm not 3 times more enthusiastic than I was last year. I'm not 300% more enthusiastic than I was last year, but my revenues are up 300% year over year. So I'll tell you what, when I'm enthusiastic and we're not performing, you can have a go at me. And in the meantime, as long as we keep delivering, we keep growing this business, forgive me my enthusiasm, please.
Listen, and I want to emphasize this to everybody that's watching. This is not just a BEEM global issue. This is a small cap, micro cap issue. That is what's happening. It's what's been happening for 30 months. So let me put some clarity to this. There's 7 companies holding up the entire market. Apple has a $3 trillion valuation. You can keep pouring your money into Apple. Is it going to go to 6 trillion? I don't see it. Matter of fact, I would suggest Apple's probably overvalued. And if you're putting your money there because you think it's safe, I would say actually there's probably a lot more risk there than putting your money in something like BEEM, which without question has gotten stronger over the last year, 6 months, 3 months. Sales increasing. I mean, you've been announcing almost daily that, reorders from, I think it was several in California, there's reorders across the board, right?
Yep.
This is a good thing, right? If you didn't listen to the last quarter's conference call, Desmond lays out a very comprehensive, there's complete transparency here and lays out everything that's been accomplished. My question is, has the company and the stock been rewarded? No, not even remotely close, right? And that's
the other way
because of the overall market. 90% of stocks are going to follow what the market does. So I view this as a gift. I mean, literally, it's Christmas time. Merry Christmas, right? This is probably the best gift you could get under the tree if you actually do something here. I mean, it's approaching its all-time lows. Could it take that out? I'm not going to lie. That could happen. That would, to me, be the signal to back up the truck. That's me. I'm not telling anybody to buy it. Everybody should do their own due diligence and make their own decision. But if you just ask yourself a simple question, is this company stronger than they were a year ago? Have they been rewarded? No. He just opened up the largest market for his product, and they are going there no matter what, right? Yep. He is a solution to an infrastructure problem that they are encountering right now. And he's got a company that has established relationships for 30 years, making the product, the very product that you have patents for here in the US for the street post. And if you think about, okay, what are these people going to do to charge that don't have a home or a garage? And actually you kind of schooled me on, even if you have a garage, the grid in some of the places can't handle charging a vehicle, right?
Right.
So street lights is such a no-brainer. Curbside, apartment complexes. I just start thinking about all these different things. That is going to be a huge solution, right?
There's no question about it. So, look, we've just acquired a company that, as I said, is one of Europe's top streetlight manufacturers. We are now giving them our intellectual property, our patented intellectual. By the way, we have patents on that product in North America, in Asia, and also in Europe. now. We just got the European patent just a couple of months ago, actually, right at the same time we closed the deal. And what the difference between what they've been making, which is street lights, some of them even with solar integrated into them. Now they're going to be making our patented EV standard, which is a lamp standard that has wind generation, solar generation, our patented tracking, and the pole is full of batteries. And we are combining all those sources of energy, and then we're providing a meaningful EV charge at the curb with this product. So they have all the capabilities. They have the engineering capabilities. They have the manufacturing capabilities. What they've lacked is our IP. Now they have our IP because they are we. It's not they anymore. It's we have our IP in Europe, and we are going to start turning those things out over there. And I'll tell you what, the other thing that's interesting about that, Tim, is the economics are so good where we're doing this in Serbia that you mentioned I brought in a bunch of engineers. The engineers I have in Serbia, advanced degree engineers, speak English, great work ethic, absolutely talented people like that. I'm paying them less than I'm paying welders in San Diego because of the way this works. Beyond that, the economics are so good in this facility that I have because they have so much automation. We're capable of producing these things without hardly touching them, as you can see when you look to that walkthrough video. I can make the structures for this product in that part of the world, put a bunch of them in a 40-foot shipping container, ship them to Chicago, where I'm going to stuff them full of batteries and sell them into the North American market as well. So it's a very, across the board, the right move. We get all of Europe and we get to enhance our North American business, which, as I said, is growing 300% year over year right now. But here's something I want to back up onto a little bit, because I very much liked your comment when you said, I'm not telling anybody to buy this stock. Everybody should do their due diligence. What I want to do is I want to tell everybody, please do your due diligence. I welcome you to do your due diligence of this company, because when you do, what you're going to find is that we have no debt, that we have a untapped credit facility, that we are well capitalized, and that we have a very, very low float. We've had fantastic discipline with our equity over the years, and the result of that.
How many shares outstanding, fully diluted, Desmond? How many shares?
14 million. 14 million. About 1/10 of all my nearest peers. 1/10. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, this comes down to earnings per share. We have a hell of a lot less S into which we will have to divide our E in the future. On that metric alone, we're worth 10 times any of our peers. So please do due diligence on this company, all the way up to calling us if there's things that you don't fully understand, because our SEC filings, although they're the easiest to understand SEC filings you're going to find, because we don't have any special deals or weird paragraphs that you have to read 50 times and you still can't understand what it means at the end of it. We have none of that. But there's still stuff in there because of the weird, arcane accounting things and requirements of the SEC. There's still, Black-Scholes calculations on options and things like that. Just call us if you've got questions. Please do your due diligence on us. Compare us to any of the other companies of our size and shape that are out there right now. And then one other ask. If you find somebody who's better than we are, please tell me who they are, because I'm an investor too. And I would like to know who's in better shape with better prospects than we have.
No, I always love talking with you, Desmond, because your passion is so off the charts. But you have every right to be there. You've been this way the whole time, actually. As long as I've known you, you've always said it was coming, and it took longer to come. There is no doubt about that. Yeah. But you know what? You've never backed down. You've always said it's coming, and it's now you are seeing the fruits of that, and it is coming. This stock ran to over $70 on smoke, really, right? There's no more smoke. This is the real deal. I mean, this is it's happening. You are executing, and the stock is doing the opposite. And to me, we're in the twilight zone, and we've approached stupidity levels, in my view, right? It won't last. At some point, the animal spirits will kick back in, and people will understand what a gift this was. There will be a whole bunch of people that will look back at this time frame at that price and say, I could have bought, and they didn't, right? Mm-hmm. I guarantee that time is coming. I can't tell you when it's coming. I just know it's coming. Why do I say that? Because I have conviction, because I have watched Desmond for years, The man does what he says he's going to do, and he has unbelievable passion and fire. You just had COVID, and you were working, not at work, but from home. That's who you are, right?
I'm not going to let a thing like COVID slow me down. And the thing is, it is. I think it was about a year ago that we last talked. I was in New York City at the time, as a matter of fact, and I at that time I told you that I thought we were going to grow pretty significantly, but I never told you we were going to do 300% year over year. So yes, I'm enthusiastic about where we're going. I believe in where we're going to go, but I also try not to oversell. And the simple fact of the matter is, I didn't tell anybody last year that we were going for 300% year over year growth, although I had a strong feeling that was what was going to happen. But the other thing, it's not just us. Your point is as well, I think the markets, this is a cyclical thing. The stocks like ours are at 22-year low right now. If you look at the chart, we're right where we were 22 years ago, and then it just went nothing but up thereafter. Like you, I don't know what the date is. I'm not going to try and call dates or even bottoms or anything else like that. But I do believe that we're in a cyclical moment. And I'll tell you what, like this guy in New York said, banker, smart money guy, they're buying. What he told me the other day was, I said to him, I think it comes back. And he says, so do I. And he said, because I'll tell you what, the other thing is betting on the end of the world. And that's a bet you only win once. And I'm not making that bet today. History has a way of repeating itself. These cycles do happen. We're certainly at the bottom of where we were 22 years ago. Again, I'm not calling the end. I'm not calling the bottom. But at some point, it comes back up. It's like the tide. The tide goes out. The tide comes back in. Sometimes called hard to say.
So what you just said was, and I've been saying this for a while, is if it isn't coming back, then it's the end of the world, right? The end of the world, then it doesn't really freaking matter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of bad things happening right now across the world. But, if you look back at history, there's been a lot of bad things that have happened across the world throughout history. And throughout that time period, yes, we've had our pulls down, but we've always found a way to climb eventually, right? And I do believe that will be the case again here. There's a lot of good things happening in the world. Not everybody knows about them. There's a lot of good companies. There's a lot of good things that are not being recognized right now. And, there's this thing called impact investing. I don't know if you've heard about that recently. It's kind of a new trend where, people find things that are important to them, meaningful to them. In other words, the environment or whatever it is, they find companies that are going to have an impact on the things that they truly care about. And they're investing in those companies for that impact, not just looking to make a good profit, but actually to help that company survive, to create the impact that they're looking for on the environment. If this is not an impact type stock, I don't know what is, right? This is a poster child for an impact stock.
Look, you talk about terrible things happening in the world. You're absolutely right. I mean, there are some terrible things happening in the world, and one never wants to exploit these things at all. But at the same time, my new facility is 2 hours south of Ukraine. There's going to come a time when Ukraine needs to be rebuilt, and when it does, again, I'm not suggesting we're trying to exploit this or anything like that. But when it does, they're going to want an awful lot of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. They're going to need a lot of streetlight infrastructure and everything else like that. And we're going to go and try and help. It's the same thing in the Middle East. All of this stuff requires rebuilding. When it gets rebuilt, they're not going to rebuild with legacy stuff. Right. They're going to go back in there with renewables wherever they can, rapidly deployed. They're going to have battery storage and all that other stuff. I don't know that we can win that stuff, but we have fantastic products. We've got first mover advantage, and we're bloody well going to be there trying to see what we can do to help to their benefit and to our shareholders' benefit as well. So it's, if the end of the world is coming, Tim, I'm going to give you one forecast. If the end of the world's coming on the very last day, the last thing that BEEM Global is going to do is deploy some product just before the lights go out.
Oh, Desmond. All right. So listen, I want to highlight what. Listen, I think we've made it pretty clear I've done several interviews with Desmond. If you want to, if you don't, I'm not familiar with the story, you can go watch them all. You'll have a very clear picture and understanding of what it is they do. This is the second.
And consistency, I hope. I hope you'll find consistency as well. But I know you will. You'll find we're consistent with what we're going to do.
The first acquisition you did was Allcell, the battery company.
Fantastic.
Right?
Fantastic.
Which was a great strategic move because at the time, batteries were challenging to get your hands on, right? Yep. And you wanted to make sure you had this, you didn't have to rely on somebody else for the supply of batteries.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
I also told you I was going to improve my gross profitability as a move for that. And I'll tell you what, in the third quarter conference call, I told everybody that by the end of the fourth quarter and into the first quarter, we will improve our gross profitability by between 20 and 25%. And almost all of that has come as a result of that acquisition of that battery company. 20 to 25% improvement in gross profitability, almost all of it as a result of that acquisition of that battery company. Yes, I'm delighted we did that.
So let me ask you a question, Desmond, because recently, like there was an article about how Ford is cutting back on some of its commitments. They're laying off some people in the factories for the electric vehicles and scaling back some of their plans. A lot of the companies within the space, there just seems to be, there's a kind of a negative tone overhang to the whole industry, right?
Yeah.
People saying that maybe the 2035 isn't realistic and all of this stuff. What's your position on all of that?
So I'll first of all tell you directly from BEEM's point of view. We have seen no indication that any of our customers or our prospects are slowing down their plans to install EV charging infrastructure. None. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is because infrastructure is behind cars. Okay, we're behind. There's not enough infrastructure out there today, and there's nowhere near enough out there to get to hit where we're going with these electric vehicles. And I honestly think the infrastructure is going to be behind the cars because it's just much harder to do for probably the next couple of decades. And as a result of that, even if when you see some slackening in EV sales, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because we've got to be really careful what we mean by that. But when you see some slackening in EV sales, I do not believe that means slackening in infrastructure deployments, because we're already behind, and everybody knows that the wave is coming, and when it does, we're going to have a hell of a time keeping up with it. Let's just talk about slackening in EV sales, though. Really, what we're talking about is a slight slowing in the phenomenal acceleration, right? 61% year-over-year growth in sales of EVs, okay? This is not like, there's not a decline. People aren't backing off this, and I got to tell you something. No one that I know and nobody that I talk to, and I know there's been a lot of bad press around this, but I'm just telling you personally, nobody that I know and nobody that I talk to is telling me that they're any less enthusiastic about electric vehicles. I think what you are seeing is that electric vehicles are still a little bit more expensive than internal combustion vehicles, the average. However, comparably equipped they aren't. That's the other big sort of, I don't know if people are being dishonest or just deliberately stupid or whatever, but this whole thing about how EVs are much more expensive than internal combustion engine cars, not comparably equipped. Yes, the electric vehicles tend to be more expensive and they're much better equipped. They're more on the luxury end. You can't buy really cheap electric vehicles as yet. And so the averages tend to be pulled up. Now, in a high interest rate environment, particularly where there's a lot of leasing going on, I think it's understandable that you're going to see a slight cooling of enthusiasm for more expensive vehicles. And I think when you look at ICEs, you see that as well. And then of course the other thing that we get impacted by, Tim, which is just again not relevant. A lot of the renewable energy companies, the large solar, large wind companies have been negatively impacted because their business models are incredibly reliant upon cheap money. Right, they have to finance these deals, and then they have to try and get their money back with a normalized cost per kilowatt hour that's less than the utility is selling it for. Well, the more expensive money gets, the harder that is to do, and so their stocks are taking a battery. Because we use renewable energy to power our products, we're getting clattered by the same thing, and yet we're not in the least bit interest rate affected because we don't finance projects. People buy our products. I'm wearing a solar-powered watch right now. It's not impacted by interest rates. Our products are just products which use solar power and wind to power them, but we don't run a business which is predicated on the cheapness of money so that people can finance these large deployments, just not and try and get it back with a kilowatt hour at a time. So I think that's just another misunderstanding out there. EVs are still growing rapidly. There is no question that transportation is going to electrify. No question at all about it. And I don't think that is a bad thing. It's a fantastic thing. Everybody will enjoy that process. You save a fortune on gas, get out of this habit of having to go to the gas station, accelerate faster, have more fun driving, and everything else. And don't forget, by the way, I went to sea as a young man in the engine room. Nobody likes engines more than I do. All right, I like the roar of an engine, but at the end of the day, we're going to electrify transportation. We're going to need a massive amount of charging infrastructure for it. Will we see some undulations in that thing? Yes, but just as we're right now, 61% instead of 75% or something. That's okay. It's still all growing.
Right. Okay. I wanted to touch on that. Like Desmond said, I guess to sum it up, do your own due diligence. Watch the video. I highly encourage, and I will put the link to that. Do you have is that still up, Desmond? That
yes,
walkthrough?
Yes, it is.
I'll put the link on that. I'm telling you, it's a how long is it? About an hour and a half, maybe, or something like that.
It was supposed to go an hour, but we got a lot of questions. And so we had to answer the questions. But again, nobody has to spend an hour and 15 minutes watching that thing. You can flick through it if you want to, right? It's on YouTube. You can look at the through it. But I mean,
I watched the whole thing. I did it in 2 segments, right? Because it was long, and it was late at night when I started to watch it to begin with. But I came back to it in the morning and finished it up. And I mean, look, if you're to have conviction in something that you are investing in, you want to know everything you possibly can. That's my position, right? So that's how you get conviction, is because you know so much about a company or the person that's running the company that you're comfortable. When it's dropping like this, you're not getting upset. You're salivating. You're going, come on, go a little bit lower so I can really load up the truck, right? I mean, that is. And that's why to me, it's important to watch the whole thing. It's important to listen to the conference call. Listen to what Desmond is saying. He's not lying. Hey, this isn't blowing smoke. He's telling you what's happening, right? And this segment of this market is not going to go away. It's not. It's going to get bigger. And actually, each week that goes by that we are not addressing the infrastructure problem just means that it's going to become more and more of a hard press as we get closer to the time frame that it needs to be done, right? I mean, that's what it means. It means every week that goes by, every month that goes by, that means you're just shrinking the window of how long we have to get things done.
More urgency, and we're the fastest deployed, most scalable solution out there. By the way, one other thing on that video I want to point out is that I took that video, I did that tour 3 weeks after we closed the deal. And what I just really want anyone who watches that video to say to themselves, this was 3 weeks after they closed the deal. Look at the level of integration. Look at the rebranding. Look at the fact that everyone's wearing BEEM uniforms. Look at it is hard to do this. M&A is tough, and it's one thing to do a transaction. It's another thing to then integrate and assimilate the team afterwards. I have done a lot of these deals. I've never seen anybody integrate as fast as we're doing this right now. It's fantastic, breathtaking.
Your question about the street, the EV standard.
Yes.
You've had that patent for a long, long time, right?
Since 2019. I'm ashamed to say. I'm ashamed.
So, and I asked, since the engineering teams have combined,
yes,
have they helped you to improve or tweak the EV standard? And what did you? Go ahead, tell me.
The EV standard, which I believe will be by far the biggest selling product in our portfolio, which we have made more progress on that in the last 4 weeks than we have in the last 4 years, because we now have a huge team of engineers who are the world's arguably some of the top experts in the world's largest market in making street light and street furniture infrastructure. Now, my engineers in the United States, with their expertise in combining solar and batteries and EV charging, working with with our engineers over in Europe, the level of collaboration is absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this. First of all, they all speak English, advanced degrees, wonderful people, by the way, wonderful work ethic, just great fun to be over there and spend time with them, aside from anything else. But one of the things that's kind of interesting about this is time zones, which you would think is a problem, because we're talking about 9 hours of separation between here and 7 hours in our Chicago facility, 9 hours of separation. But what ends up happening is our engineering teams here, They develop quizzes of questions and a bunch of work product and all that sort of stuff. It goes across to Europe. And tomorrow morning when they come back to the desk, the work's all done. It's just incredible. It's incredible. And as I say, and I don't want to exploit this, but again, I'm paying these people a quarter of what I'm paying the engine, not a quarter, but less than I'm paying welders in San Diego. So, we're taking advantage of this separation. But to everyone's great joy, honestly. I mean, you watch the video. What you will not see is people who look unhappy or angry or anything else like that. They're thrilled to bits. And here's another cool thing.
Are they going to get stock options? Or I mean, everybody that works for you there, will they get stock options?
Same thing that we do. Look, they're just BEEM employees. They are BEEM employees. And what I tell everyone, the management team, both in Europe and over here, is I want everyone to feel as though they're just down the corridor from each other. And yes, they will get the same. No one gets a lot of equity at Christmas time, but everybody gets a little bit. We just had our Christmas meal here yesterday. It was absolutely astonishing. The table's about 3 times longer than it was last year when we did it because of the growth. Just pointing out to those employees, very hard to ever own a home in San Diego. Spend your paycheck, but keep your equity, because that's one route to some wealth in life. But the last thing I want to say about the video, by the way, is not 3 weeks into it. The other thing that's absolutely astonishing in that 3 weeks after we closed, they're already starting to make the components for the EVR product in that factory facility. And I mean, I just challenge you, ask anyone who's done this, an international expansion like this, an acquisition like this, and ask them how likely is it that you're going to be rebranded, have people in the uniforms and making the new product within 3 weeks of acquisition. And I think most people will tell you that doesn't happen. Well, we did it.
Desmond, it's always a pleasure. I want to thank you for taking the time. Let me ask you this. I don't want to wait a year until we have our next follow-up, right?
No.
But let's give me a time when you think we should do another follow-up. How about right when you're getting ready to unveil the EV standard?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I have so I'm going to say this to you, and again, we talked about a year ago, and I told you I thought we were going to grow a bit, and I didn't, but I didn't tell you 300%. So what I'm going to leave you with here is I think we talk in the first half of next year. We're able to show you EV standard, and I think we're going to have some other interesting stuff to talk about then too. So yes, let's do it.
All right, just keep me. Don't forget about me, man. Keep me posted, and let's make some stuff happen. Right?
Yes,
Sound good?
Listen. If nothing else, I don't change, and I don't change the people I'm around.
All right. Thanks, Desmond. I'm gonna shut this up. You feel as though we missed anything?
There's so much we could talk. We could be here for hours, but I think we hit the highlights.
Okay. All right. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's CEO interview. Today we had Desmond Wheatley from BEEM Global. Ticker symbol BEEM. If you did enjoy today's interview, do us a favor. Give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All of those things are very important to us here at Alpha Wolf Trading, and we genuinely appreciate you taking the time to do that. Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.